Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy, Golden Falls, Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back. Yes, I am back. This is What If Deku had a Frostbite Quirk, and it's part 3, or the finale. I have told some of y'all that my goal is to have these basically be 3 to 4 parts, probably somewhere around there. Creatively, I want to kind of have all the freedom in the world with these What Ifs, so I'm going to do them how I feel like I want to do them. I'm not going to force arcs where they don't need to have arcs and so on. I've gone through this a million times probably in the past, but I know there's some new watchers that I actually haven't seen, or I don't know, because maybe you didn't see me back like 6 to 8 months ago when I was doing these videos. But yes, this is the finale. I just wanted to bring that up quickly, and gosh, it feels so good saying that original intro again. Now with that said, let's get right into the what if. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya has gone fully off the grid. Yes, the student that was absolutely advertised for UA and the student that was deemed the next biggest hero is gone. Just like that. His mother and everybody else in his family, from teachers and all alike, they have no idea where Izuku went, and the only person that truly knows is Izuku himself. Izuku is out basically in the wilderness, just enjoying the alone time, quote unquote, that he currently has. There's nobody around, nobody to deal with, and he found this one place where he stumbled across a long time ago and decides that he's going to stay here just for now. It's hard for him to get stuff like food and water and stuff like that, or actually minus the water, because he can straight up make the water himself if he had the patience to do so. The food, on the other hand, is a little bit more difficult, but still, it's nothing too crazy. He would go out and kind of find a way to get some food, either if it's through traditional ways of, like, you know, hunting or something like that, or just straight up grab things that were kind of left out, or people that are unsupervised selling food and stuff like that. So he would do a little bit of stealing, I must say. Not very heroic, but at this point he doesn't necessarily care. He kind of just hangs out for a while. He stays off the grid, nobody knows where he is, and he kind of helps from here and there, and people hear through the grapevine about basically certain saves that he does and him helping out maybe different places. He decides that, oh, well, he'll restock their ice and restock their cooling systems and stuff like that, and they pay him some money, and it's as if he's gone with the wind as quick as that. He's never put down into one place, and nobody's really able to find him ever. And a long time would go by, months at that, maybe a little bit less, but about a month would go by, and all these things would begin happening in Japan. Of course, his whole class would go off to do kind of great things in terms of finishing their final exams and going off to a forest training camp, and Izuku would be completely out of the loop, like completely out of the loop. But one night, he would begin to hear something, hear loud noises going off, and as if it's a battle nearby. He would race to the nearest rooftop and he would look off. And as he looks off, he sees a battle happening currently between All Might and the one and only All For One. All For One wants to kill All Might. He has now taken away, or someone basically over there has taken away, his failsafe for his plan being that of Shigaraki, and he wants the death of All Might right now, because he can't handle basically dealing with All Might, at least now or even for the future. Izuku sees this and even contemplates to himself if he wants to help or if he's just going to stand by and watch. And eventually, he would see All Might down to one knee, suffering, bloody, and broken. He would see All Might completely battered, and All For One would be ready to end this game, to end the life of the #1 hero. But Izuku would retaliate, shooting a large gust of icy wind straight at All For One, blowing him back straight into a building as he begins to encapsulate the entirety of the building in a giant iceberg. He begins to cover All For One, restricting him entirely, only leaving it so that his face is able to see out of some sorts, and he holds him still, packing on the ice so heavily that it feels even stronger than cement, as if he's surrounded by the strongest metals that you can possibly imagine. That's how All For One feels at this moment, and that's what Izuku is doing to keep him captured. Now, All Might would walk over and see that the kid has done it, has captured All For One, and he would praise him, saying that he did great, but that he needs to come back. That he needs to come back to the school and so on, and that he can't do things the way he's doing things. But Izuku wouldn't even listen. He would look to All Might and say that he could have been dead right in front of everybody. The camera's rolling and everybody watching, his life would have slumped on the ground. But luckily enough, he didn't die, and it was all because of him. All because of himself. He tells All Might that he's living right now, breathing right now because of him. And he tells All Might that straight up and as fluid as you can possibly imagine. Not so that he could take the credit, but so he can get it through his head that some people don't deserve to live. That some people are beyond redemption, and some people like him don't deserve that second chance. Shigaraki didn't either, but now it's basically the time that Izuku is finally coming to this realization that he was right in the first place, and that they shunned him for it. So many people shunned him for taking the life of Shigaraki, but saving all of his classmates. It's as if he crawled over the grenade, stopped the grenade himself, took the wound on the chest, and he still was shunned for doing it. As if he didn't hold on to that grenade good enough. That he didn't cover the explosion good enough. He didn't stop the explosion entirely, so he failed. That's how he feels. He begins to squeeze the ice tighter on All For One, and as he squeezes, you can hear the bones cracking from All For One's body, and All Might tells him to stop. But Izuku pushes him back gently as he slams into a wall of ice that is weirdly softer than their normal ice, as if he's protecting All Might from any damage. But he begins to continue to squeeze the life out of All For One, and he looks at the camera and says that this type of person does not deserve to live. That he should take this life right now and it would all be over. But then as he says this, he begins to feel his powers and strength completely fade, as if he no longer is able to utilize his quirk, and he knows exactly what's happening. He knows exactly who's here, and it's Aizawa. Aizawa, or Eraserhead, is canceling his quirk. Izuku would begin to more or less walk away and say that if they want to take him, they might as well take him now, because once Aizawa's eyes close shut, he's going to squeeze the entire life out of All For One with the ice that sits on his body currently. In which after he walks away and he closes the vision of Aizawa, he basically just allows them to take All For One, thinking to himself that they better keep him captured properly and at least use the ice that he put on them or on him to their own advantage. Of course, some heroes would try to cut him off, but since Aizawa is no longer able to actually see him, there's really no catching him. There's no catching Izuku as he skates away at insane speeds, and as he lands in the same place that he's been hiding out in, he decides that there's no point in hiding anymore. That yes, he's going to stay away from whatever these people want and whatever these people want to do, but he's going to isolate himself for now. And if they want to come knocking, then they can. And that's a decision that they can make, but it's a decision that would not be a good one. Ice begins to shed all over the area. It's as if the trees and the mountains begin to be sculpted in the eyes of Izuku, as if he's building this fortress of ice, and as if he's becoming the king of his own land. But it's not a kingdom necessarily. It's a place for him to not only settle and live, but a place to keep others away from him. He knows what he's capable of. He's seen it. He knows that he can stop people that are doing bad things, and that's what he's here to do. But if they're going to come and try and stop him from doing what he believes is the right thing, from stopping these villains from doing horrible, horrible things, then he's going to make sure that they remember exactly who he is. But even with that said, in his heart of hearts, Izuku knows that he's a good person, and everybody else knows he is as well. But he's seen right in front of him exactly the type of people that these people are, and the type of reassurance he's going to get. He's never going to be good enough, and he's never going to do good enough. So for now, he wants to stay away from it all. But one day, someone would come knocking, not out of an act of war or to stop him. It's actually his mother. His mother would come knocking and speak with him, asking if this is what he wants, if this is the hill that he'll die on, and that she just wants to know, to be honest and to be transparent with her. And he says that it's not about anything that these people are saying truly. It's just a realization that he could do so much more now, stop as many people now, and guess what? It doesn't matter what these people say anyways. Not at all. It doesn't. But he's not going to do it the way that the heroes want him to and still be shunned for no reason. He might as well do it the way that he knows is the right way for himself and then be shunned anyways. Because that's exactly what's going to happen. He tells his mother that he'll be safe, that everything's going to be fine, and that he's going to stop every villain that he can possibly see and can possibly get his hands on. And she begins to say that he's just a kid, and doesn't need to do all this, and he doesn't need to put this burden upon himself. But quickly he tells her that he isn't just a kid. I mean, at the end of the day, he was structured and boasted up and pushed up through everything in front of UA and in front of everybody. He's so much more than just a kid. He was the model hero. He was going to be the next All Might, and he failed that. But he never necessarily felt that he should be the next All Might, that he should be that next big hero. He's here to stop what is wrong, and he's going to do it by any means. He's going to defeat whoever needs to be defeated. He's going to capture or end anybody who's needed to be put in that place or put away for good. And he's going to make sure he does that. And he continues to gather information after his mother leaves, gathering information from different sources because, let's be honest, there are people out there, there's going to be people out there that actually believe what Izuku is doing is good and would give him information that actually helps him track down various villains that may not be the biggest in the world, but are able to literally capture them and put them on the doorstep of the police in complete capsulization in a giant ice block. That's how he does it, and that's how he continues to do it over and over and over again. But soon he would be very, very, very upset when he hears through the grapevine of someone that is selling quirk erasing bullets, that someone is more or less allowing people to erase the quirks of others, and on top of that, giving out drugs that would enhance quirks immensely, but then it leads to absolute tears on your body, destroying it from the inside out. And he would hear about this and try to gather information on who these people are, but he would never be able to find anything. He would never be able to find who these people are, but all he would learn about is that their name is the Shia Hazaikai. He's not 100% sure who that is, where they come from, if they're a gang, if they're not, or whatever. He has no idea. But overall, he's trying to gather information on it. But soon, the information that he gathers wouldn't even matter because the heroes would actually find out where this person is sooner than you could possibly imagine. Because the information that Izuku had on trying to track them down no longer actually matters because there's a hero that steps up and stops at his doorstep to ask for his own help. But Izuku isn't so sure about this, even though it's coming from All Might himself. All Might talking about how there's going to be a raid on the Shihazaikai area and place, and basically tells him that they could really use his help. But he tells him that he's not going to do that because he already knows what he's going to say, that he has to go through the whole process, that he has to do this or do that. And All Might says that yes, that is true, and that he needs to be a hero, and you need to reassure the people that you're not dangerous. But Izuku tells him that he is dangerous. That he is. He might not be dangerous to the good people that he's saving, but he is dangerous. And there's nothing that is going to change that. No words is going to change the opinion of other people that he is dangerous. Even if he says that he's not dangerous to the people he's saving, he's not dangerous to the people that are out there, that the ones that he's trying to protect, they're going to still see him as dangerous. So who cares? It doesn't matter. He would tell All Might to basically go away. That there's no point, no more talking, no point in talking, and no reason to be talking anymore. That if he sees the raid happening, then he'll intervene and help out to his best degree. But other than that, he doesn't care. And well, everything would change because something would be happening over at that raid, and there would be no denying what's occurring. Because a giant monster-like creature would appear. Yes, a monster-esque like creature would appear at that raid, the Shihazaikai raid. But it's a realization for Izuku that this actually is just a giant quirk user. So he kind of watches as they handle it, because they're actually able to handle it quite easily. But once things begin to change in a way of, well, for some reason that thing just blows up and then reconvenes back within another person's body, well, it seems that this overarching raid boss by the name of Overhaul has now reached a brand new form and is now threatening to end everybody at the site. Now, this is where Izuku would dive head first to help out, restricting the giant monster and allowing the other heroes to help out. One that he actually has never seen before, a female hero that is dashing around, smashing into the monster or this giant being by the name of Overhaul, and he has no idea who she is, but still is helping out to a large extent. The other is someone he has heard of by the name of Mirio Togata or Lemillion. And he watches as Lemillion helps out as well, as he calls out to make shot calls and to basically do combo moves with someone who he deems the name of, well, Melissa. And she begins to actually utilize powers very similar to one All Might, which would confuse Izuku slightly, but he would do his best to restrict the giant being as they knock him out and he freezes him over, capturing him entirely. Now, with it basically done and settled, a lot of the people begin to turn to Izuku, believing that he's going to squeeze this being and kill him, but Izuku knows better than that, at least right now. He felt that rage and anger against All For One because he knew that he was associated with not only Shigaraki, but associated with trying to kill All Might. But for now, he leaves the being in the hands of everyone else, and he leaves. But many of the people there question what he was doing here, and not only question what he was doing here, but why did he help? And well, Mirio would even jump in immediately, not even knowing the kid, and say that that guy right there is a hero. Not your traditional hero, but he is one. People will deny and deny, and people will listen to the outside voices, but he is a hero. He might not be the one that everyone expects him to be, but he is. Melissa would chime in and say that it doesn't feel that way. The cold stare that he looks with and everything else that revolves around him. I mean, he is a killer, correct? And basically everybody would go silent. But a lot of the people there that are actually a part of Class 1A would chirp up and begin to say that he may be a quote-unquote killer, He may have killed somebody, but guess what? He also saved his entire class. And yes, maybe he stepped too far, but when you have powers like those and a threat in front of you like that, who wouldn't step too far? Now that conversation is happening while Zuko is basically already gone, hearing none of this, but still it's a conversation that many people begin to think about, especially in the course of UA. But Zuko is kind of off the radar for a while, and he's going off the grid and continues to be that. He takes down his entire, more or less, fortress that he built for himself, wanting to kind of get away from any attention entirely, building a place that is a little bit more isolated, and it's actually dug into a cave, but it's so supportive that there's no way that the cave will collapse or anything like that. So he kind of just hangs out. He doesn't do much. He kind of goes into town to do certain things, but other than that, he stays alone, by himself, cold. And that's just how he wants it. It's something about his quirk. Something about his quirk that makes him feel that he should sit there on his own, isolated. The feeling of this coolness and cold that courses through his veins, well, it makes him think that he should be by himself, that he should be all alone, and that he shouldn't be next to another person or next to anybody helping alongside heroes. No, he needs to be on his own. That's how he feels, and that's where his personality has been taken to this point. And it's just a waiting game. Zuko doesn't really help with much. Not much at all. He doesn't help with sieges on certain areas or certain villains. From time to time, he would pop in and help out, maybe just on a random miscellaneous villain, but he would still be on his own. Just totally on his own. He begins to listen in more and more on different radios, trying to figure out if All For One is still in capture or still in captive. But soon, it seems like there's going to be a last gambit of some sorts to try and release All For One, because many Nomus and many beings begin to shell out and begin to actually invade. It's an odd thing. Zuko watches it as if Japan is getting overrun. He sits far into the sky with a giant ice pillar looking down. He sees these giant beings and also the heroes clashing back and forth. He thinks to himself that heroes would do anything to make sure that the people that they're protecting are safe. And he begins to think to himself that these heroes are willing to die for this, to die. And as he thinks about this, he sees this giant being, something that he's never seen before, something that is as big as a mountain, by the name of Gigantomachia. The last gambit that they're speaking of is to release All For One and to get him back in the possession of what's left of the League of Villains and the followers that he's obtained. But this last gambit was not ready. Because they lacked Shigaraki and his leadership, and All For One may have planned everything to a T, but how can you plan for the act of others, and others that don't have that perfect, undisputable same vision as your own? Because when Gigantomachia begins to turn the fight against the heroes, the Nomus are losing, but the Gigantomachia flips everything on its head in a matter of minutes. People begin to get smacked around, sent elsewhere. Some of the strongest heroes getting smacked into oblivion is what it feels like. That's until, well, midnight. Yes, midnight. This hero that is not deemed as some large, high-ranking hero begins to lay down her own life to actually solidify, to stop Gigantomachia. She pulls her sleeve, but as she does, this ice wall appears in front of her. And Zuko would look back, stone cold face, straight face, no emotion, and wave her off. And it would be an odd feeling, but it's as if everybody realizes that he can handle it. Izuku dashes forward, sending this pillar of ice through the giant monster's stomach, not breaking skin, but pushing him back so far that he actually falls on his back. Izuku begins to limit the limbs of this monster as he digs ice from within the monster's body, mantling him to the ground itself as if he's rooting him like a tree. As he does this, immediately other heroes would bounce on the opportunity, utilizing weaponry and special tools that were given to them to stop this freakish monster, leading to Midnight herself actually exposing the monster to her pheromones so that he would pass out, or trying to make him pass out. Now, since he's restricted, it is far easier, but it is no easy task to get this guy knocked out. Izuku eventually sending ice toward his face, hitting him with multiple pillars, trying to knock the being out, but he begins to think to himself that this is a being that does not need to be living. How do they keep him under wraps? How do they do it? And he begins to build up a ton of ice, making it extremely sharp as he's about to send rain of icicles that are going to penetrate the monster's skin. But he begins to look around. Everybody seems to be completely dialed in on the fact that they're not going to kill this thing, that they want to capture it. The faces of them all tell millions of stories, as if they want this thing not to die, but to be captured and to be rehabilitated somehow. And he looks at them confused. How could you think a monster that was brainwashed, a monster that was horrible and is trying to kill you all, can be, that he thinks, brainwashed? He was brainwashed. Maybe just like Shigaraki. He begins to send the spikes down, and everybody would scream no, but then the spikes would land right past the giant, not hitting him, but landing on the sides of his neck, the sides of his arms, and so on, as these ice chains would appear, restricting him entirely to the ground, and a muzzle would be placed on his face, fully made of the hardest ice you could possibly imagine. And it begins to restrict him toward the ground more and more, as a funnel of some sorts would come out, and he would tell Midnight to funnel her pheromones through that. She would do so as it would act like an anesthetic, knocking the beast out for good. He would stand on top of the giant pillar and would have his hands on his hips, and he would think to himself. He would think. He would then climb down the pillar, or basically send it downward, as he stands in front of Aizawa and many pro heroes. He would reach out his hands, and immediately these ice-like chains and shackles would come over them, and he would tell them that he's ready to go in now. That he understands exactly where they're coming from. He understands why these things happen. But immediately Aizawa would cancel his quirk. But of course, it wouldn't necessarily break the things that he already solidified and made. And he would tell Aizawa that. And then Aizawa would more or less tell him just to shatter the shackles off of his damn hands already. And he would do so, and Aizawa would tell him that he's just a kid, that nothing bad is going to happen to him. They're going to have to deal with a couple interesting emotional courses, but overall, it's not like he's done anything that bad. All he's done is helped those in need, and let's be honest, they just went through a war. He tells the kid to look around. While he was gone, while he was on his own, they were preparing for war. And what he saw from that high pillar on ice, what he saw from the pillar in the sky that he was sitting on, was the war they've been planning for months, and the war that they just stopped because of him. Izuku would nod, and a bit of emotion can be seen on his face as he tears up just a little bit, and he gives Aizawa a hug, telling him that he's sorry. That he's sorry that he went so far off the rails, but he tells the kid to shut up and smacks him on the head. saying that it's now time for him to be the hero that they all knew he could be. And that the hero, or that hero, he already is. But he just needs to prove it to not only himself, but to everyone else that's going to be watching him. Everybody else that is going to be watching him become the hero even greater than All Might. But that's the end of this story. The end of What If Deku Had a Frostbite Quirk. And if you enjoyed, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And like I said, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. As always, leave suggestions below. Not all of these will be Deku What Ifs. I kind of like doing my own thing with Deku What Ifs because I'm not going to lie, some of the arcs and all that are very repetitive. So sometimes I'll make him vigilante. Sometimes I'll have him go through all the arcs. Sometimes I'll have him do this or that. For those who have been here a long time, you already know that. That's basically just me repeating myself. But for those who are new, that's kind of where I stand with stuff like that. I will not only be doing Deku What Ifs, I have a plan to do some other stuff. Actually have plans to do a solo leveling What If. So I'm really excited for that, but it's going to be an interesting one. I'm going to be doing a character that we used to actually do What Ifs on this channel a lot and put him in solo leveling. I think it's going to be a perfect video and a perfect series for me to come back and try to do something solo leveling based. But as always, like I said, if y'all enjoyed, leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment below, all that good stuff. And I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.